How do you disincentivize poor governance and corruption in particular? First, penalize and discourage using tangible and non-tangible means. In most countries, prison sentences are generally the norm, even for petty bribery. But whether this deters corruption depends on the quality of law enforcement. Capacity constraints in law enforcement can be mitigated through the prosecution of illicit enrichment. The idea is to track the public officials' wealth and criminalize increases which cannot be readily explained as income from official sources. No need to prove that the unexplained wealth is linked to a particular illegal activity. Poor governance can also be discouraged using non-tangible means. Most public officials have an intrinsic motivation to do their job well, based on reputation, integrity, or aversion to illegal activity. Social campaigns promoting respect for government and education about corruption damage can boost this motivation. Also, institutional crackdowns on corruption, the creation of islands of excellence, can have a lasting effect, because they wipe out corrupt public officials and change social norms within an entire institution. The non-tangible component makes the anti-corruption policy advice more nuanced. For example, countries where social norms are more tolerant to corruption, because everybody does that, may need to rely more on tangible means, like punitive measures or rigid rules. Countries where corruption is not tolerated rely more on trust. Second, address both the demand and supply and constrain the coordination between them. This includes criminal punishment both for bribe takers and bribe givers. For example, the UN Convention Against Corruption, signed and ratified by over 180 countries, requires all parties to criminalize bribery of foreign public officials, as well as to cooperate on extradition of offenders and return of stolen assets. Proper implementation of the agreement would effectively increase the cost of corruption. Political institutions are also key to disrupting coordination between potential bribe givers and bribe takers. Many countries, for example, limit the size of political contributions and make lobbying more transparent. Some countries also restrict post-government employment to avoid the revolving door phenomenon, when former policy makers get lucrative jobs in the lobbying industry. Third, make it harder to use the illegal proceeds. The key is to develop effective anti-money laundering frameworks, which include, for example, heightened scrutiny of financial transactions conducted by politically exposed persons, or adequate transparency of company ownership. The Financial Action Task Force is an international organization that develops standards and recommendations for effective AML frameworks. Key to reducing poor governance are monitoring and informing policy decisions. Effective law enforcement and auditing agencies are more likely to detect corruption, raising its cost. An actively engaged and informed public helps detect corruption too, a case of grassroots monitoring. Both the official agencies and grassroots monitoring can only thrive if there is transparency and data about government operations. Transparency and data, as well as engagement of civil society, are also key to informing policy decisions, making the decision-making truly inclusive.